Greetings, upstanders. Dr. O here, and man, so much can happen in a week or less than a week, right? Coming off of the elections last week, and now we have 8 Democratic senators caving in as it relates to the continuing resolution and possibly opening up the government again. And look, to be honest, I get it. I get why they did it. I think that personally, I feel like they should have held out. To be clear, but I get the idea of the fact that they could come back in January, and I feel like that's going to make it easier for some families as it relates to Thanksgiving, as it relates to the holidays. People are going to have the opportunity to go back to work, possibly get back pay, and all of that. So the fact of the matter is, we have had situations where the government did, I think, 94, 95, and 95, 96, something like that, did shut down, reopen, and then shut down just a few months later. And so I get that particular part. Obviously, things relating to SNAP benefits and the like, and that being able to get restored. But this idea that the healthcare vote is going to yield anything different for Republicans, yeah, sure, the Republicans are going to get put on record and all of that other type of stuff. But assuming the vote even happens, Republicans have made it clear that they don't care about any type of healthcare benefits for people who are not ballers. They don't care. They don't care. They want people who are struggling to have higher premiums. They don't care about any of that. That's why they haven't given in these past 40 days. And then you tie it to SNAP and you see what's going on as it relates to Trump. At New York Times just reported over the weekend how Trump has actually been fighting to get to have the rich get more tax cuts at the same time that he's telling states to not give fund anything relating to SNAP benefits and penalizing states that make any type of deals to help people out. This is happening at the same time. They've made it clear. And then if anything goes back to the House, we know that they're not going to vote for it either. So the fact of the matter is that the Democrats, I think the main thing that comes out of this for me as it relates to the Democrats is that they need new leadership. Chuck Schumer is just not that dude. He's just not that dude. And it's one thing for those of us who are outside of the government to call for it. But when you see people like Ro Khanna publicly and loudly calling for this change in leadership, Chuck Schumer risk what had happened to Joe Biden. And what I mean by that, clearly it's not a situation where people can just turn on him in terms of, when he's up for re-election or anything like that. But what I mean is that there's going to be so much dissension within the party in terms of Democrats turning on each other. And he has to ask himself the question, like, how long can I do this for? I mean, when you look at what happened in New York, now look, you can love, hate, or hate Mamdani, but for the leader of the Senate who's from New York, the Senate Democrats who's from New York, to not endorse a Democratic candidate for whatever reason, whether he thought it was anti-Semitism, whether he thought that his policies were just going to be wrong, whatever it is, it's not a good look for the leader of Senate Democrats. And people need to have all hands on deck. People can talk about Hakeem Jeffries all they want. I've critiqued him before, but at least he's been able to keep his branch in order, in line. And Chuck Schumer can't do that. He tried to pretend like he voted no, like he didn't know this was going to happen, like to try to save some face. But he's not the leader that Democrats need right now. He's not the leader that the country needs right now. And we can go, and people say other benefits of the shutdown potentially ending is that, the Congresswoman Grijalva will, get sworn in. I'm not even convinced Mike Johnson's going to make that happen. I feel like that's going to be slow walked. But at least people can say that it's open and now he's supposed to get out here and he's supposed to, do what the House is supposed to do what they're supposed to do and get her up there. They're going to find other delay tactics. And so, look, like I said, I get the reasons why Democrats voted. I wish that they would have fought longer. I wish they would have fought harder. But this is where we are. If Chuck Schumer doesn't see the writing on the wall and just step down right now, I feel like he's going to continue to be a hindrance to the Democratic Party and the momentum that has been gained. And that is a real leadership issue that he needs to pay attention to. He does not have the confidence of other senators. He does not have the confidence of many Democrats in the House, and he absolutely does not have the confidence of the American people who are on the side of the Democrats. And so he really has to go. He is not the leader that we need in this particular moment. I feel like Jeffries has stepped up a little bit in ways that he hadn't before. Late to endorse Mamdani, and we can talk about that. and there's some other conversations that need to be had. But right now, this is a after the highs of last week, this is a low point for Chuck Schumer, particularly as it relates to how this was handled. And I agree with others that he has to go, and that there needs to be other leadership out there. And I would say this even if the shutdown continued. I mean, he's just not that guy. And the Republicans have shown that they are not to be trusted as it relates to this thing called healthcare. They would rather do anything else than let anything close to universal health care or better health care, or letting Americans get the same type of health care that they have, to let those things let them happen. They are in it with the insurance companies. They are in it with big pharma. They are in it with the owners of these. They're in it with all of them. And they are going to continue to fight that all of the time to try to get rid of Obamacare. Like, this is what they're about. So we know that the vote that they have eventually is going to fail, but all of the other things that some of these of the 8 senators who caved talked about, I feel like they can make valid points. But you're dealing with a group that cannot be trusted, and you're dealing with a group that's going to do everything to not make healthcare better for the average American, which is why they haven't produced a plan in 10 years since Trump has been on the scene, and people need to be mindful of that. So let me know what you all think. Again, I feel like they should have kept pushing. I understand some of the rationale and why some of them caved, but it's going to be very interesting to see what happens going forward. Let me know what you think. Hit that like, subscribe. Let's get to 25,000 subscribers. Don't forget to get that best-selling book right there called Lies About Black People by your boy. And I will see you next time. Peace.